Razia, I'm very excited by our next guest, a country Victorian, Rachel Sporn, ex-basketball superstar. I just want to run a few numbers by you as well.
Yep.
She's the current operations manager with the Port Adelaide AFLW team. She has a Medal of Order of Australia, 2-time WNBL MVP, 8-time WNBL All-Star 5-time WNBL champion, 2 times WNBL Grand Final MVP, best on ground, 3-time Olympian, 2 silvers, 1 bronze, and the number 14 has been retired at the Adelaide Lightning. What an absolute stunning resume that you have. Can you talk us a little bit through your basketball journey, I suppose, where you came from in country Victoria, how you reached those great heights throughout your basketball journey?
Yeah, thankfully I had really sporty parents, and basketball actually wasn't introduced until our little town in 1968, the year I was born. And so Murrayville, only a town of 300 people, so our sport was pretty much our lifeline and our entertainment, like most small towns. Thankfully, basketball was played. No junior grades, though. So when I was 9, I was playing with adults. And then it wasn't until I was 12 that I was elevated to A grade because I had a growth spurt. And I played with Mum for 5 years and we won 5 premierships, which was really cool. And I guess basketball sort of chose me in some ways because I was seen playing in an association game in Bordertown, and there was a West Adelaide scout there, and she said, look, there's this tall, skinny girl called Rachel that you need to recruit for the West Adelaide Basketball Club. So they drove the 2.5 hours to Adelaide and convinced me to move here. So my first year in Adelaide was pretty tough because I was homesick. Growing up in a small town, Adelaide felt so big to me, and I realised I wasn't fit and I had so much to learn, and there were so many other great players because I dominated at home because I was so tall, not a big population. So
Just a little bit of self-promotion here. We love that. Absolutely
100%.
Dominated.
Talk us through those Olympics. That's obviously a pretty special thing to be a part of. How was that?
Amazing. And I guess 1996 Atlanta was so special because we didn't qualify for Barcelona, so that really hurt. I was 24, we went to a pre-Olympic tournament, didn't qualify, and my Olympic dream was on hold.
Yeah.
So Atlanta's so special because we ended up winning the first medal ever for Australian men and women, because we know the Boomers just recently in Tokyo won the bronze. It was their first. So we were showing the way, I guess. And then Sydney was incredible because home Olympics, it doesn't get any better than that. And I'm so excited for Brisbane in 2032. And it means that your whole family can afford to come. It's so expensive to go offshore to Olympic Games. And I know COVID has sort of put a hold to that at the moment, but so wonderful having every member of my family there and so many people.
Yeah.
We won silver. We keep getting relegated by bloody USA. And I've had to listen to the Star Spangled Banner anthem so many times. And Athens was pretty magical because I was a mum. My daughter was 2. And I was the oldest member of the team, and I felt pretty relaxed at those games. My role was different. I was coming off the bench, and I think because I was a mum, had other things going on. But silver again. So I didn't get the fairy tale of gold. But it's incredible, because you're just amongst all these peers of amazing athletes, and it's a pretty great time because Summer Olympics, male athletes at their peak, a lot of eye candy on view. And look, you just acknowledge that and think, oh my gosh, and in so many different body types and from all the different disciplines. So and the dining hall is probably the most special place to be because you've got over 200 countries competing. It's open 24 hours a day. It's the size of 2 football fields. It has to feed so many different types of people and for their sports, and it's just sort of where you congregate, and lots of great fun sort of happens in those areas.
I'm glad you touched on that, Rachel, because I still get that a fair bit now, the eye candy, when I walk down the street and through West Lakes. They always say, oh, look at that, a bit of eye candy there. But I want to speak now about your transition, because we know that professional sport can be quite hard to transition out of for certain people, and people have their struggles. What did you do post-basketball? You spoke about being a mum. I think you got 2 kids, is that correct? 2 kids. So you came out and you were a mum, but how did you find the transition? What did you do post basketball in a professional sense, and how you've landed at Port Adelaide?
Yeah, so I worked at, once I did retire, so obviously my daughter was 2, I had my son 2 years after that, but I worked at Australian Major Events for 4 years in the Tour Down Under, so I was the Community Relations Officer, which I loved, and then I was with the Australian Melanoma Research Foundation for 6 years as their CEO, and I was a ambassador initially, but I was very passionate about that cause. My grandma had passed away from that, and as a parent I wanted to educate my children a lot more than I'd been educated. I got sunburnt all the time when I was young, not knowing any different. So that role was amazing, very rewarding, but not for profit. I got a bit burnt out. So I stepped away from that. And then my most recent one, and I presented to the Port Adelaide players recently, was for Sport Integrity Australia. I did that role for 3 years, and I loved that because it got me back amongst the elite sporting environment, because as you know, when you retire, Tom, you miss it.
Quickly forgotten, aren't you, as well?
Yes, quickly forgotten, just a has-been. Don't necessarily miss the training, but you miss the camaraderie.
Yeah.
You miss that culture. So that's why I'm pretty excited that I'm back here. I've landed here.
Back in the footy. You spoke a little bit about homesickness and stuff, and you went over and played in America for Detroit. How was that? How'd you deal with being over there and being away from?
I guess because I was, the league didn't start until 97, so by the time I was recruited in 98, I was 30, so homesickness wasn't so bad anymore.
A problem.
And I also had 2 Australian teammates in my team as well, and it was exciting to be part of a new franchise like the AFLW, because that's happened to me twice as a player, with Adelaide Lightning in 93 and then Detroit Shock in 1998. There's so much hype, there's so much excitement, and that's what I can't wait to see replicated in this situation. But it was just nice being a professional athlete, because you have training camp, and then you have about a 4-month season. You play 32 games in 70 days. Oh, wow. And as an athlete, you love that. You're playing the game you love, not training quite as much. And just to have amazing crowds. I think in the first couple of years, they averaged 15,000 to each game. I played in Madison Square Gardens. There's so much history. It was just amazing. Yeah, so I'm really pleased that I got to experience that.
Yeah.
Now, we did say before, you're the operations manager with Port Adelaide in the AFLW. How's that role going for you, and what excites you the most? You spoke about a new organisation and a new franchise. What excites you the most?
The absolute opportunity to start from scratch. And I'm going to be amongst all these amazing young women. And I think women's sport has always been there, but it hasn't been as visible as it should be. And that's what I love about this program, is that they're going to be so visible. We're going to see how talented they are and how skillful they are. And we have an opportunity to build that winning culture with them, and, the standards and values that we all stand by, and really direct that in that direction, and hopefully have a lot of success. And I know, look, with a new franchise, that may take time, but we're just going to build a really great foundation.
Erin Phillips?
I was going to say, who's... Have we got someone...
I'm looking at Norts here. Can I deflect that, Norts?
On the radar?
Do you know, I do have a nice story with Erin, because obviously she went down the basketball path, but when she was 12 years old, I was at the Tour Down Under. At the start was at Port Adelaide, and Greg Phillips, I knew her dad, introduced Erin to me, and she was just at a stage where she was going to have to stop playing football, and she was dominating. And because she did meet me, shook my hand, I didn't know it at the time, she thought, right, I'm going to play basketball. And I didn't know that until years later. And then lo and behold, 5 years later, she's my teammate at Lightning. She was 17, I was 34. I remember that because I was double her age. And then she was just so talented to get from starting a new sport to playing at National League level only 5 years later. Whatever I think she would have tried, she would excel at. And obviously I'm so glad that we've seen her play AFLW.
Yeah. I think you and I would get on really well, Rachel, and I think we are going to get on very well, because the self-promotion from you is something that I love. You have defined Erin Phillips' life and career. It's all down to you. By shaking your hand. I love that. I'm all about self-promotion on this show and everywhere.
Agreed.
the hype around the showdown this week, obviously huge for the men's. How good's it going to be later this year to have the AFLW showdown later on in 2022?
Oh, I'm so excited, and I just want this absolutely to come to fruition, because I was actually at the AFLW grand final in 2019 when Adelaide played Carlton. 53,000 people there. Did you know it's the 5th highest crowd ever at a football game at Adelaide Oval? So I want us to beat that.
Yeah.
And the rivalry's already formed. You know, it gives me goosebumps. and just, you know, and because we're sticking with the tradition of never tear us apart, you know, the captain's going to wear number 1. There's just so much to be excited about. And, we're just going to invite everyone to come and enjoy it.
Rachel, thank you very much for joining us. We can feel the passion in your voice when you talked about your career and the future for Port Adelaide women. It's really exciting. So thank you very much for coming on. Thank you.
And I just have to say, I'm going to beat Tom in the footy tips in the advertiser, all right?
Oh, he's head to head.
Yeah, I think we might be even. We haven't started great.
We're not talking about the advertiser this week on this podcast. He's had a bit of strife, so I'm getting out of here. Thanks for coming on, Rachel.
Thanks, guys.